The Inland Revenue Service is a fucking idea.
Yeah.
The IRS, they're bad ideas whose time is already over. They're going to move into dissolution in days and weeks ahead, literally. They don't even exist. Right now, they're a kind of draconian threat to people because they allow it to be a threat. Because too many people are afraid of those brown envelopes coming in through the letterbox. And then they take them seriously. And then they make the mistake of opening them. They make the mistake of reading. They make the mistake of filling out the fucking forms and saying, I owe you any money. Sign here. Send that back. You've just joined. You just signed the contract, baby.
Yeah.
Do not ever fill out those forms under any circumstances. And obviously, I'm going to have the argument, well, what if they come to the front? Let them come to the front door. There are ways and ways of dealing with them. But, if one is serious about the question of sovereignty, if one is serious about the question of liberty and autonomy, then do the math and do the hard work, which is establish a irrevocable universal trust. Go and scrape together $3,500. Get that trust set up. Put your home and all your assets into that trust. Designate yourself and your family members as beneficiaries of the trust. You've just removed yourself entirely from the government dragnet, from the Inland Revenue dragnet. They will never have a hold on you. You are now untouchable, but you've got to go through the motions at least of doing. It's that old thing about Jaime, the old Shylock, saying, going to the temple and saying, God, oh God, help me, help me win the lottery, help me win the lottery. And then the next week comes back again, bangs his head on the temple floor. Oh God, why have you forsaken me? For please, would you just help me win the lottery? I need the money. I can't survive. Third week he comes back, bangs his head on the floor and starts bewailing. Oh God, help me win the lottery. And the thunder and lightning, the clouds open, and God comes out and says, for fuck's sake, Jaime, help me, meet me halfway, buy a lottery ticket. That's really the gist of it. Buy the lottery ticket, participate, meet God halfway with your protestations and do the work. And the graft is remove yourself from indentureship. There are ways of giving public notice now and doing it. There are ways of redeeming your treasury bond. There are ways of getting your children outside of the satanic grip of CPS and ownership by the state. It requires a fair bit of work, but it's doable. It's doable within days and weeks, not months and years. But not enough people practice this stuff, Lisa. They're all enjoying the dialectic, having a tea party in a prison cell and bitching, endlessly bitching about the status quo. I'm done. I'm no longer part of that conversation. I've been part of the solution for 25 years. I've been screaming about them, writing about them, publishing it for 20 years. And in the last 5-6 years, I have given literally thousands of interviews, and I generally say the same thing, and I'm happy to do so because I learn from people like you and your husband what you're doing with your kids. I needed to hear that today. That's really uplifting for me to hear that that's franchising, that's syndicating, that wisdom flame is growing. So I don't begrudge having the interviews. I enjoy these conversations because I learn as much as I give. I'm just saying, let's change the thrust of the conversations from what they're doing to us to what we are permitting happen to us.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's what I was banging on about in COVID. Everyone was very sick of me. I kept saying to people, if you don't give them permission, they can't touch you. I said they again. I shouldn't have said they again. But that energy, that draconian, satanistic energy cannot get to you unless you permit.
And just keep underscoring it. I want everyone to change the goddamn narrative. Because that is where the divine will kicks in. Either hit the master switch or don't. But count Sacha Stone out of the conversation moving forward, because either we recognize that we are entirely in control of this fractal hologram called life, or you continue to choose to be indentured as a wage slave or as a sacrificial totem. It's a choice. Everything is a divine choice. If we don't want government, then stop paying taxes. And if you don't want death, if you don't want disease and death, stop celebrating time. These are simple technologies and simple algorithms that I'm putting out. I mean, I walk around barefoot because I don't have any shoes. I don't want shoes. I don't want anything other than the most simple existence imaginable. I want to be in the trenches. I want to be in the ditches. I want to be just planted trees today. I want to be literally affirming and building the new earth wherever I am in this world. Even if I was locked in a prison cell, I'd be coaxing fucking mold and lichen out of the windowsill, because we have it. Everything is a choice. Everything can be affirmed and it can be brought into higher state of resonance. Every single situation can be, and that's where the majesty, the technology of the divine immanent cloak of the majesty of the human being reveals itself. Is in the fact that even if you are mute and blind and paralyzed, you can still conjure. You can still conjure beauty. You can still, what you hold in the mind's eye becomes the seed that then moves into the temporal universe and becomes manifest, enacted and manifest as reality. So each of us in that sense are the engine of creation, but only when we know it and we own that piece.
Just one quick story. My daughter, she was 6 years old and she came out to me and she said, Mum, she'd only been in the bed for 2 minutes, and she said the ceiling turned to space and she heard a voice say, the meaning of life is life itself. And then the space, the ceiling, just evaporated back into the ceiling. And she came, and she'd only been in bed for 2 minutes, so she wasn't dreaming. And she came out and she told me this story, and she looked a little stunned. And I thought, well, if that was a message for her, but that was also a message for me. Like,
hell yeah, and for all of us.
That is beautiful, right? And I thought, this girl is tapped in, and yeah, we've been trying to do the work as a family. She's now 12.
Amazing. No, I love things like that. Thank you. That's a beautiful takeaway, and very special stuff. That, and isn't it amazing how one line like that? Now you can't think of a line like that.
No.
So that was definitely a divine transmission from her super soul, her oversoul. But what a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's right. And before you go, my son was 4, and he said to me, "Oh, Mum, I chose you." I said, "What do you mean you chose me?" He said, "I chose you. There were some other parents, but I didn't really like them, so I chose you."
Wow, he remembered that, huh?
Yeah, so, which was going to get me into, are we living in the great remembering? Because these kids are connected to soul, right? So
that's exactly what we are. And kudos again to you and your husband for creating the space for these kids to be able to remember, because most kids have had that remembrance butchered out of them by the age of 3 because of the syntax and the bad use of language, the bad forms, energetic forms that are like revolving around them. So kudos to you guys. You clearly kept a lucid kind of quantum space around your kids, and that's going to yield such an incredible benediction as they grow older. But I have to say, that's the first time I've heard of a kid remembering, speaking to the fact that he remembered other family that he could have chosen. It would be fascinating under hypnosis to see if he could actually name that family and do some research then and check out, because almost certainly another soul would have been born to that family, because that would have been an inception point in the womb of that mother, that woman.
That's
that
right.
was also celebrated for that same time. And so it would be interesting to do that research.
That's right. That's right. He said that other family treated the daughter very well, but didn't treat the son very well. He was very, he was descriptive.
Amazing.
I was like, that's beautiful. Yeah. So I think I'd like to end on that. I'd like to say, I think we just need to keep tapping into that source. I think that's what everyone has to do. And you are right about the they. Let's forget about the they and look at the now and look at what's right in front of us with that source. So I think that source is always talking to us, right?
Bravo, bravissimo. Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Listen, you take care, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Good. Yes, come back at me anytime after we launch the exchange. The next few weeks are really important, and I'll come up for air after that. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Take care. Thank you, Sacha.